The calm before the storm. The vast expanse of space was quiet, eerily so. For centuries, the galaxy had been a bustling arena for all the races that called it home. Tensions flared often, but peace always seemed to be within reach, until now. In the Galactic Council, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered, each one nervous as reports poured in from across the galaxy. Something was happening, something that no one could quite explain, but everyone could feel. The humans had been silent. At first, the Council thought it was just a temporary lull, a quiet period after a particularly intense diplomatic mission. However, as the months passed and communication with Earth grew sparse, unease began to spread. Humans had always been unpredictable, but their silence was a new kind of danger. Yelnar, an experienced and cautious ambassador from the Satorian race, stared out of the council chamber window. He was tall, his skin shimmering with a silver hue, his large eyes betraying his concern. The humans were the youngest species in the galaxy, but they had become the most talked about. Their rapid advancement had astonished everyone. They were no longer just a curious, reckless race. They were formidable. "Something is coming," Yelnar muttered, as his mind raced with all the reports he had received over the past few days. No one in the council had dared to discuss it openly, but everyone knew. It wasn't just the silence. It was the build-up. The signs were all there. The human fleets, once spread thin across countless planets and star systems, had begun to consolidate. Intelligence reports showed that ships and supplies had been moved into unknown sectors. The known alliances that humans had once maintained were fading, as if they were preparing for something bigger. Yelnar had even heard rumors from his contacts in human space, rumors of a hidden fleet far larger than any the galaxy had ever seen. But no one had confirmed these stories. Yet, the silence, the deafening silence, was telling a story all its own. Across the galaxy, other species were noticing the same thing. The Vron, a cold and calculating species, had grown restless. The Silthar, a race known for their vicious and underhanded tactics, had begun to make their own moves, sensing an opportunity in the sudden absence of human intervention. And the Talion Order, a deeply spiritual race, had begun to worry. The Talions were keen on balance, and the silence from Earth had thrown their entire way of life off course. Even the Council itself, made up of the most powerful and respected races in the galaxy, couldn't ignore the growing unease. The council chambers, once full of loud debates and heated discussions, were now filled with whispered conversations and sidelong glances. Everyone could feel it, the calm before the storm. On Earth, the situation was much quieter. Earth's leaders had long been known for their resilience and ability to endure. They were not a race that flinched easily, not even when faced with overwhelming odds. In the past, they had fought back when pushed, but they had also shown incredible restraint when needed. Diplomacy, trade, and peace had always been the first choice, but that could only last so long. Within the walls of humanity's most secure command centers, strategists and military leaders were quietly making plans. They hadn't forgotten the long history of peaceful coexistence, but they also knew what it meant to be pushed too far. The human fleet, once known for its strategic brilliance, but rarely seen in action, was now preparing for something far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. But it wasn't just military power they had at their disposal. Humans had something far more dangerous: their ingenuity. The Talion Order had always been cautious around the humans, even though they refused to show it. There was something unsettling about them, something about their unpredictability. They had witnessed humans in combat, and while they had won many battles, they had always been the underdog. But that had never stopped them. In fact, it had only made them more dangerous. The Vron, who were notorious for their calculating and meticulous nature, watched as human warships disappeared into the void of space. They knew that something was being prepared, an invasion, a retaliation, or something worse. The Vron were not afraid of war, but they had learned to respect the unpredictability of humanity. And then there were the Sylphar. They were a race known for their cruelty and ambition. They had long coveted the power that Earth held, and they had attempted to manipulate human diplomacy on several occasions. But every time, humanity had held firm. Now, the Sylphar were beginning to fear that their moment had passed. The humans, it seemed, were no longer playing by the same rules. Back in the Galactic Council, Yelnar and his fellow ambassadors were preparing for a meeting that they knew would be unlike any other. The question wasn't whether humanity would make a move, but what that move would be. No one knew for sure, but the whispers were getting louder. The reports from human-controlled systems had become erratic, with entire sectors going dark, and their messages were more cryptic than ever. Yelnar stood up, his gaze hardening. "We have to act now," he said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "If humanity has truly decided to do something drastic, then we must be prepared." The door to the chamber opened, and a human representative entered, their expression unreadable. For a moment, the room fell into a tense silence. The human leader walked to the center, facing the council. Without a word, they pressed a button, and a hologram flickered to life. It was a map of the galaxy, showing Earth's location. And surrounding Earth, dozens of ships. Their numbers were impossible to count. The fleet appeared to stretch beyond the stars, and it was ready for something. The council members exchanged nervous glances. Whatever humanity had been planning, it had begun. The calm had ended, and the storm was finally here. The question remained, would it be humanity's storm, or would it be their destruction? This part sets the stage for the impending conflict and keeps the Tay whispers of power. The silence surrounding Earth had stretched on for months, growing heavier by the day. As the galaxy held its breath, rumors began to surface about the true nature of the human fleet. Whispers in the darker corners of the galaxy suggested that Earth's hidden fleet, once thought to be a myth, was real, and its power was unimaginable. In the Galactic Council chambers, the mood was tense. Ambassadors and representatives from countless species exchanged uneasy glances, each one feeling the weight of the unknown. The once certain peace was slipping through their fingers. What were the humans preparing for? And why had they kept their fleet hidden for so long? Yelnar, the Zatorian ambassador, stood in the chamber, his mind racing. He had been one of the first to sense that something was off, and now he was even more certain. The reports were coming in from all sides. Strange readings near Earth's border, sudden disappearances of civilian fleets, and the occasional message from a human-controlled system, cut off abruptly and never finished. It was as if they were preparing for something. A massive, unstoppable move. "We need to know what they are planning," Yelnar said quietly to his fellow ambassadors. "Whatever it is, it's not a simple diplomatic maneuver. The humans are not simply waiting anymore. They are planning." The others nodded in agreement, their faces drawn with concern. The Exer, a species of highly intelligent beings known for their precision and logic, had already begun to make preparations. They were meticulous, careful planners. But there was something about humanity that always made them unpredictable. Far beyond the council chambers, on Earth, things were different. The leaders of Earth were not talking. There were no speeches, no declarations, no public displays of power. Instead, in the quiet, dark corridors of their military bases, top commanders and strategists huddled together, going over their final plans. They knew that their moment had come. Aboard one of Earth's top military stations, Commandant Olivia Morrow surveyed the fleet's readiness. For months, she had been part of the strategic task force that had quietly assembled humanity's greatest weapon. At first, the fleet had been a defensive measure, a way to protect their home against potential threats from alien races who had underestimated them. But over time, the plan had evolved. Now, the fleet was not just for defense. It was a message, a declaration. The vast space stations, hidden deep in the uncharted regions of the galaxy, were now bustling with activity. Thousands of ships, advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, lay in wait. They were stealthy, designed to be invisible to alien sensors, and they carried weapons capable of crippling entire fleets. Commandant Morrow stood before the holographic display, watching as the fleet came into alignment. Every ship was in place. "This is it," she whispered to herself, her voice tinged with awe and resolve. "We are ready." Back in the Galactic Council chambers, tensions were escalating. The Vron, who had been the first to notice the sudden movements of human ships, had already begun massing their forces in anticipation. They were calculating, cold, and ruthless. They had long feared humanity's potential, but their calculations had always placed humanity in the weak column. However, with the sudden disappearance of human fleets from their usual patrol routes and the strange absence of diplomatic communications, the Vron were now questioning their assumptions. "We have underestimated them before," Vron Ambassador Veltrax said, his voice a low growl. "We cannot afford to do so again. We should strike first." The Zatorian ambassador shook his head. "No, that would be disastrous. We don't know what they have. This is different. The humans are no longer just reacting to threats. They are preparing for something. We need more information." But the Silphar, always eager for conflict, disagreed. "You're wasting time. They've been silent for too long. This is the perfect opportunity. If we strike now, we can take them by surprise." The council chamber erupted into chaos, each species vying for influence. However, amidst the uproar, Yelner couldn't shake the feeling that something far bigger was coming, a force beyond what they had ever anticipated. Whatever humanity was preparing, it wasn't going to be an ordinary attack. It was going to change everything. On Earth, as the final preparations were made, Commandant Morrow received a message, brief but urgent. The alien representatives had caught wind of humanity's plans. The whispers were spreading like wildfire. The time to act had come. There would be no turning back now. A cold shiver ran down her spine as she sent the order to launch. The fleet would move in silence, as it always had. The galaxy had no idea what was about to hit it. Far from Earth, in the deepest corners of the galaxy, the stars burned with the unknown. There were whispers of ancient powers, long-forgotten technologies, and a force awakening that no one had expected. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and now the universe would learn the truth of what happened when the Deathworlders stopped being kind. As Commandant Morrow looked out into the endless void, she knew that everything was about to change. The storm was coming, and it would bring with it a reckoning that would be felt across every species in the galaxy. The first strike. The hum of the engines was steady and deep as the fleet moved in complete silence, far from prying eyes. The ships, once thought to be little more than ghostly rumors, now silently cut through the darkened corners of the galaxy, heading toward their target, the heart of the Galactic Council. Humanity's hidden fleet, so carefully kept under wraps for years, was no longer a secret. The time for subtlety had passed. Now was the time for action. Commandant Olivia Morrow stood at the helm of the flagship, watching the holographic map of the galaxy as her fleet advanced. The sharp lines of human ships, sleek and battle-ready, flickered across the display like a deadly constellation. Each one was designed for stealth, equipped with advanced weaponry that could decimate entire fleets in mere moments. It was not just about defense anymore. It was about sending a message. She didn't need to speak for the crew to understand the gravity of the moment. The silence aboard the ship was deafening. There were no unnecessary words, only quiet determination. They had been preparing for this day for years, and now it was here. As the fleet moved deeper into the galaxy, closer to their destination, the nervous chatter in the Galactic Council grew louder. No one had expected the humans to act so decisively. The Vron, always quick to take advantage of perceived weaknesses, had already positioned their ships at the border of human space, preparing for the worst. Yet, no one truly knew the extent of humanity's power. The fleet's movement was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, chaos reigned. Reports were flooding in from every corner of the galaxy. Civilian ships, military patrols, even neutral sectors were reporting strange readings, sudden disruptions, and the inexplicable disappearance of ships. Word had gotten out. The humans were coming, and they were coming with force. Yelnar, the Zatorian ambassador, sat in silence, his mind racing. The once certain council members were now visibly shaken, their once calm demeanor replaced with unease. He had feared this moment, but even he hadn't anticipated the sheer speed and precision with which humanity had moved. The fleet's sudden strike was well-timed, catching the galaxy off guard. No one had expected humanity to be so organized, so prepared. Yelnar's own species had been studying human tactics for years, yet they had missed something crucial. Humanity was no longer a fragmented species. They had united behind a common purpose, and now they were showing the galaxy the full extent of their power. "We've underestimated them," the Vron ambassador, Veltrax, growled from across the chamber. "This isn't just an attack, it's an invasion. They mean to take control." "No," Yelnar replied, his voice calm but firm. "This isn't about conquest. The humans are sending a message. They've been pushed too far for too long. They're not here to rule. They are here to show that they are no longer the prey." The room fell silent as the reality of the situation settled over the ambassadors. The humans weren't the weak, fractured species they had once thought. They were something else entirely, something far more dangerous. A species pushed to the brink, ready to fight back with everything they had. As the fleet reached the final stretch of their journey, Commandant Morrow received an encrypted message from Earth's High Command. The signal was clear. They were moving forward with the first strike. Earth's first target would be a key neutral zone in the galaxy, a region where the Council's most powerful fleets congregated. The humans weren't just making a show of force. They were taking strategic control. The Silent Fleet, once the stuff of myths and rumors, was now a force to be reckoned with. Their first strike would send shockwaves across the galaxy, and no one would be able to ignore it. Commandant Morrow's face hardened as she read the final command. Her fingers danced over the holographic interface, issuing orders to the fleet. The moment was upon them. The galaxy would no longer see humanity as the timid, insignificant species they had once been. This was the beginning of something much larger. It was the beginning of humanity's true power. Far above, in the empty expanse of space, the flagship of the human fleet launched the first salvo. An ion cannon burst that tore through the vast emptiness, a signal to the galaxy that humanity had stopped waiting. The silence of space was broken. In the Galactic Council chambers, the reactions were immediate. Panic spread as the first reports of human ships firing on a neutral sector came in. Ambassadors from all races, who had long disregarded humanity as a peaceful species, scrambled to comprehend what was happening. "We have to stop them," Veltrax said urgently, his voice rising in panic. "This will escalate into full war." But Yelnar knew something the others did not. The humans weren't trying to start a war. They were just showing the galaxy that they were no longer afraid. The rest of the galaxy had been treating them as if they were weak, dismissing them as primitive, non-threatening. But humanity had quietly built its strength in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike back. And now that moment had arrived. For the first time in galactic history, humanity had made its move, and the consequences would ripple across the stars for centuries to come. The galaxy responds. The shockwaves from humanity's first strike reverberated across the galaxy. What had once seemed like an impossible move, a mere whisper in the dark corners of the cosmos, was now a full-blown reality. The Council, made up of species who had long been at the top of the galactic food chain, was no longer the authority it once was. Humanity had shattered their illusion of invincibility. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic was quickly replaced by strategy. The once complacent representatives, who had dismissed Earth's growing power as an anomaly, were now scrambling to respond. They had misjudged the humans, underestimated their resolve, and now they were paying the price. The first strike had been a wake-up call, but it was just the beginning. "I warned you, Veltrax," the Vron ambassador growled, his eyes narrowed with fear. "We've allowed this to happen. We've allowed humanity to grow too powerful, and now we'll have to face the consequences." The council chamber was in chaos as different ambassadors voiced their concerns, suggesting ways to retaliate. But Yelner, the Zatorian ambassador, remained calm. He was no stranger to conflict, but even he knew that humanity had crossed a threshold that would be difficult to reverse. "We cannot defeat them with conventional means," Yelner spoke out, his voice steady but laced with unease. "This isn't about military superiority. It's about human ingenuity. We've never faced a species like them." The council members fell silent, realizing the truth in Yelner's words. Humanity wasn't just strong. They were adaptable, innovative, and willing to do whatever it took to protect their own. They weren't bound by the same rules that governed the other species of the galaxy. They didn't care for the politics or diplomatic niceties that the others held dear. They only cared about survival and strength. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Commandant Olivia Morrow watched as the reports of her fleet's first strike flooded in. The initial success was overwhelming, but she knew this was just a small victory in a much larger war. The galaxy wasn't going to take humanity's actions lying down. Soon, the response would come, and they would have to be ready. "Prepare for the next phase," she ordered, her voice unwavering. "The galaxy will come for us, and when they do, we'll be ready." As she spoke, a hologram flickered to life in front of her, displaying a map of the galaxy. Humanity's fleet had taken control of several key neutral sectors, strategically positioning themselves to cut off the Council's supply routes. It wasn't just about power, it was about control. Earth was proving that they could no longer be ignored. But just as the fleet prepared for its next move, an unexpected development caught their attention. The Vron, the most aggressive species in the galaxy, had already begun mobilizing their forces. The first reports came in from the Vron border, confirming that their fleets were on the move. "They're coming," said Lieutenant Carter, a young officer aboard the flagship. "The Vron are preparing for battle. They won't stand by while we control their trade routes." Commandant Morrow stared at the display, her mind working quickly. The Vron were powerful, and their tactics were brutal, but humanity's fleet had one thing they didn't: unity. The humans were all fighting for the same goal. No alliances, no backstabbing, just pure, unrelenting determination. "The Vron won't be our only problem," Morrow said, her voice cold with resolve. "The entire galaxy will react to this. We can't afford to sit back and wait for them to come to us. We need to stay one step ahead." As the human fleet prepared for its next move, the Galactic Council began to pull its resources together. The various species that had long been rivals were now united by one thing: fear. Fear of humanity's rising power. From the depths of space, the Galactic Fleet began to assemble. The Vron, Zatorians, and several other species pledged their support to the Council's cause. They had no choice. The humans had proven they were not to be underestimated, and now they were going to make sure humanity would never threaten their position again. But humanity was ready. They had been patient for too long, watching from the shadows as the galaxy lived in its complacency. They had learned to fight on their own terms, to fight in a way the galaxy didn't understand. And now that they had made their move, there was no turning back. As the two forces prepared to collide, it became clear that this would be the greatest conflict the galaxy had ever seen. The humans weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their place in the galaxy, and they would not back down. The question now was simple: who would be left standing at the end? The tide turns. The galaxy had been thrown into chaos, but humanity had found its stride. As the alien forces rallied together, humanity's fleet expanded, reinforcing its position and preparing for the next stage of the war. The Vron, once a dominating force, had underestimated the resolve and cunning of the humans. Now they were beginning to realize just how formidable their opponents truly were. Commandant Olivia Morrow stood on the command deck of the flagship Valiant, gazing out at the vast expanse of space. The stars glittered in the distance, but her mind was focused on the battle that was sure to come. The first strike had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy, and now the response was building. "We've got incoming," Lieutenant Carter reported, his voice tense. "The Vron fleet is approaching fast, along with their allies. It looks like the entire council is coming for us." Morrow nodded without emotion. She had expected this. The galaxy would not simply let humanity's challenge to their authority go unanswered. But the humans had something the aliens did not: unity. The Vron may have been powerful, but they were fractured, divided by rivalries and old grudges. The humans were not. "Alert the fleet," Morrow said, her voice firm. "This is it. Time to show the galaxy what humanity is made of." The crew moved quickly, their training kicking in. The massive ships of the human fleet moved into formation, each vessel a symbol of humanity's ingenuity and determination. The Valiant, a Titan-class dreadnought, led the charge, its sleek design and advanced weaponry making it a formidable opponent. But the fleet was not just about firepower. It was about strategy. The Vron were coming in full force, their ships bristling with weapons, eager for revenge. But as they closed in on humanity's position, something strange happened. The humans weren't retreating. They weren't even backing down. Instead, they were preparing to engage with a confidence that was almost unsettling. "What are they doing?" one of the Vron commanders asked, staring at the human fleet through his ship's viewport. "They're preparing for a fight," another Vron officer replied, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "They're not afraid." And they weren't. Humanity's first strike had proven that they were willing to go to any lengths to defend their home and their future. But it wasn't just about defending Earth. It was about something much bigger. Humanity wasn't just fighting for their survival anymore. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy, for the right to exist on their own terms. The Vron, however, were not easily deterred. They had been a dominant force in the galaxy for centuries, and they would not go down without a fight. The first volley of fire came from their massive warships, powerful energy blasts streaking toward the human fleet. But the humans were ready. "Brace for impact," Morrow ordered as the first round of Vron fire hit their shields. The shock of the blast rocked the Valiant, but the shields held. Humanity's ships weren't as large as the Vrons, but they were faster, more agile, and better equipped for this kind of warfare. "Return fire," Morrow commanded, her voice cold and decisive. The human fleet unleashed its own barrage of energy blasts, targeting the Vron ships with precision. The difference was clear. Where the Vron relied on overwhelming firepower and brute force, the humans fought with strategy and intelligence. They knew when to engage and when to retreat, using their smaller but more maneuverable ships to strike where the Vron were weakest. On the Vron flagship, the commander cursed as his ship took heavy damage. "What are they doing?" he muttered. "This is not how it's supposed to go. We should be winning this." But the humans weren't playing by the same rules as the galaxy's other species. They had learned from their past mistakes, and now they were using their knowledge, their creativity, and their determination to outmaneuver their enemies. It was a style of warfare the Vron didn't understand, and they were beginning to realize that they were no longer the galaxy's top predators. The battle raged on, but it was clear that the tide was turning. Humanity's resolve was stronger than the Vron had anticipated, and with every shot fired, every maneuver executed, the humans were showing the galaxy that they would not be cowed. The Vron had thought they were unbeatable, but they were learning the hard way that humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. "Sir," Lieutenant Carter said, looking up from his console, "the Vron flagship is showing signs of vulnerability. We've got a clear shot at their engines." Morrow glanced at the screen, calculating the risks. If they could cripple the Vron flagship, it could be the turning point in the entire battle. But it would require precision and perfect timing. "Take the shot," she ordered, her voice steady. "Now." The Valiant fired a concentrated blast at the Vron flagship, the beam cutting through space like a knife. The explosion was immediate, and the Vron ship began to lose power, its engines sparking and flickering out. The Vron forces around it hesitated, their morale shattered. For the first time in this battle, the humans were gaining ground. "Prepare for the next phase," Morrow said, her eyes locked on the view screen. "This fight is far from over, but we've taken the first step toward victory." Humanity had proven that it was no longer a passive observer in the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they were willing to fight for their place in the stars. The Vron, and the rest of the galaxy, would learn it the hard way. The final blow. The atmosphere aboard the Valiant was charged with anticipation. The crew had fought tirelessly, and the Vron were on the brink of collapse. Commander Olivia Morrow stood on the bridge, her eyes locked on the view screen, surveying the remnants of the Vron fleet. They were scattered, their ships severely damaged, and their once proud formation was now a mess of broken vessels. "Captain, we have confirmation. The Vron flagship is disabled," Lieutenant Carter reported, his voice brimming with hope. Morrow's jaw tightened, but there was no sign of celebration on her face. The victory was significant, but it wasn't over yet. Not until the last Vron ship had surrendered or been destroyed. They had shown the galaxy that Earth would no longer be a pushover, but the true test was still ahead. "Prepare the fleet for the final strike," Morrow ordered, her voice firm and resolute. "We've won the battle, but the war isn't over until they've been pushed out of our space." The crew moved swiftly, coordinating the next phase of the operation. The human fleet had grown stronger, more unified, and better prepared for what lay ahead. Their victory wasn't just due to their advanced technology or their numbers, but their sheer willpower. Every ship, every soldier, had fought for the same goal: Earth's survival and ascension into the stars. Meanwhile, the Vron leadership was scrambling to salvage what remained of their forces. The defeat was devastating. They had never considered that humanity could challenge their dominance. The Vron were known for their ruthless efficiency, their advanced weaponry, and their unyielding will. Yet, humanity had proven them wrong at every turn. "We can't afford to let them finish us off," one of the Vron commanders muttered, his voice tinged with fear. "But what can we do?" another officer asked. "We've lost our flagship. Our forces are scattered, and morale is at an all-time low. These humans, they are more than we bargained for." The Vron were reeling from the shock. They had underestimated humanity's resolve, their strategic genius, and their ability to rally together in the face of overwhelming odds. The galaxy had always been their playground, and the notion that they might lose it to a relatively young species like humanity was unfathomable. "They will come for us," the elder commander said grimly, "and we will have no choice but to either surrender or be destroyed." Back aboard the Valiant, Morrow watched the Vron ships retreating into the distance, but she knew it wasn't over. As much as the Vron had been driven to the edge of defeat, they would never surrender easily. Their pride was a dangerous thing, and it would lead them to one final desperate move. "Captain," Carter's voice broke through her thoughts, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vron Council." Morrow's brow furrowed. The Vron rarely communicated directly with humans. Whatever this was, it wasn't going to be a simple surrender. "Put it through," Morrow ordered. The screen flickered, and the image of a Vron general appeared. His eyes were cold, calculating, yet there was a flicker of something else in his expression, an acknowledgement of the inevitable. "We know we are beaten," the general said, his voice hard but tinged with something like respect. "But you must understand, human, our species does not bow. We do not surrender. We fight until the very last." Morrow's expression remained unchanged, her voice calm as she replied, "And we will fight until the last of us is standing. This is our galaxy now. Vron, it's time for you to leave." The Vron general's lips curled into a twisted smile. "We will fight again. When you least expect it. You have not seen the end of us." The transmission ended abruptly, and Morrow's face remained stoic. She knew the Vron weren't done yet, but the war had changed. The galaxy had shifted. They had underestimated humanity once, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. The humans had proven that they could take down even the most powerful forces in the galaxy. The Vron might return, but they would do so at their own peril. The human fleet moved in formation, preparing for the final assault. Every ship, every fighter, was ready. They had endured so much, but they had grown stronger with each challenge, more united than ever before. Earth had shown the galaxy that they could no longer be ignored, that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the final wave of battle approached, Commander Morrow stood tall, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The fight had been long, but this was it, the final chapter in humanity's struggle for survival. "Prepare for impact," Morrow said, her voice cold with determination. "Let's end this."